Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm going to make sure that you guys have the best time.
That every situation that is coming my way is my karmic account, and my power lies in the present moment.
Wherever I went, people were talking about stress management.
Yes.
I don't require a holiday because every day is a holiday.
I feel connected to people everywhere in the world. I haven't once felt I'm meeting someone who's a stranger.
A lot of very interesting women encouraged me to run for office.
I have never felt that there was any difference between me playing a Ganesh stuti on my tabla or going and reciting the Quran.
My reputation was torn to shreds.
She's Hindu, I'm Catholic.
You want to do something path-breaking, then you have to take the risk.
And obviously I don't talk to people.
Tell us more about that too. Welcome to Chai with Manju. We have a very special guest with us today. Lovely, talented, beautiful Bharatanatyam dancer, Radhe Jaggi, who will be performing at Sri Lakshmi Temple in Ashland on 27th September, Friday. So let us meet Radhe Jaggi. So welcome to Boston.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having
We
me.
are so excited. And I have to tell you, in all my years of doing Chai with Manju, this is my first father followed by daughter interview. I interviewed your father in 2013, of course, Sadhguruji. And then, so it's a privilege to interview you today. Now, we have this big show tomorrow. So, what can the audience expect from the show perspective first? So, share with them.
So I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. I was trained in Kalakshetra.
Right.
I joined when I was about 16, which is when I took up Bharatanatyam a little bit more seriously. So my style is very typical of that style.
Okay.
But at the same time, my guru is Leela Sampson, who has a slightly different approach to the same style of dance. And so hopefully I do justice to that sort of training that I've had tomorrow.
Now, is there a story or a theme tomorrow?
No theme per se. I think the pieces that I'm performing tomorrow are largely based on Shiva.
Okay.
Because I think in terms of dance, in terms of meditation, in terms of spirituality, if you think of him as a yogi, he's definitely the one who's given us the most incredible opportunity. And so the pieces that I do largely will be in that direction.
Okay. Are you performing by yourself? Or
I'm a solo performer. I'm part of my dance teacher's dance company. But most of the time I do solo performances.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, I read a very interesting story. In some ways, I think your journey started even before you were born. I read that your parents had gone to the Kalakshetra Center, and your mother said that if I ever have a girl, I want her to learn dance here, right?
That's true. I grew up learning Bharatanatyam, but in a very not committed, in a very casual way, like all children are. You don't ever take anything seriously, and I had a lot of questions. So if somebody didn't answer my question, I would get upset and I would not dance anymore, or I would not do something else. So I switched back and forth. Definitely my education in Bharatanatyam did not start till I went to Kalakshetra.
Really?
At least as far as my experience of it went. But before I was born, and maybe before they were married, or maybe just after they were married, they visited Kalakshetra, and my mother was taken by these beautiful girls in dance saris and half saris, cycling to college and coming back. And she thought, if I ever have a girl, definitely this is where we should send her. But I did not know any of this until the day I graduated from Kalakshetra. So when we graduate, before we graduate, as part of our examinations, we have to give a performance. So we give it as a class. So my entire class, we danced together, and it was part of our examination. It was only on that day that my father told me that they had visited and that my mother had really wanted something like this to happen. She wanted to learn dance, and she never had the opportunity until after she got married. She went to a few classes, but my father and mother traveled so much that there was no way she could pursue it. So I guess here I am, completely by accident, fulfilling what she wanted.
There are no accidents and no coincidences in life, right? So, now, which one has been one of your most memorable performances? Something that left
One
a
of
mark.
my earliest performances, one of
Mhm.
my earliest solo performances, I had graduated from college maybe a
Mhm.
year or 2
Mhm.
years
Mhm.
before that,
Mhm.
was in Bhopal, and I had
Oh,
traveled to perform there with all of my
Uh-huh.
musicians, with live musicians, and with my teacher at that
Mhm.
time, not Leela Akka, but another
Uh-huh.
teacher.
Uh-huh.
And for the first time, I experienced what it was to be completely in control of everything on stage,
Mhm.
but at the same time to be so vulnerable because everybody's watching you and
Uh-huh.
every movement of yours is observed.
Mhm.
And that very delicate balance
Right.
between being very much
Uh-huh.
in control but also 100% vulnerable at the same time.
Mm.
That's something that I'll never forget, and I think that's something that we're constantly trying to bring to the stage.
It's, I think, vulnerability has a strange power of its own.
Yes,
It
definitely.
really does, because then you're being yourself.
Yes.
And I think the power to be yourself, the strength to
And
be
I think the
yourself.
misunderstanding is that vulnerability is weakness.
No, not at all.
But I think being open and being
Right.
able to express whatever
Right.
you need to express in that moment is a sign of great strength.
Absolutely. And people always recognize the genuine from the fake. If you're vulnerable and you're genuine and you're showing it and you're being yourself in whatever form of life, I think that's what strikes a chord with people.
Definitely,
I
yeah.
find that in medicine too. Now, let's talk a little bit about this wonderful cause that the fundraiser is about. And so this, from what I was reading, the Cauvery River, of course, provides water to over 84 million people in southern states, and 40% of the river has dried up in the last 70 years or so. So that's why this whole project has come about. So tell us more about the project and how you got involved.
So when Sadhguru started Rally for Rivers 2 years
Uh-huh.
ago, I was traveling and I couldn't be part of the rally
Okay.
in any way.
Okay.
So we followed it like everybody else followed
Uh-huh.
it on social media
Right,
and in the
right.
news and
Uh-huh.
things like that. But Rally for Rivers, the aim was to ensure that government policies from then onwards were made with an ecological view, and to ensure that when we think of our rivers, we don't think of them as resources. We also make sure that we rejuvenate them in some sense. So Cauvery Calling is one project from the umbrella of Rally for Rivers.
Okay.
There's many aspects to this.
Mhm.
About 47 to 48,000 farmers have committed suicide in the last 12 years.
Terrible.
And the suicide is not just a death. I think we hear about farmer suicide and we've kind of a little bit become numb to it. But what it takes for a person to reach that point of pain and suffering that he feels the only way out is to kill himself is almost unthinkable, you know, the kind of pain that they go through to get
The
there.
sheer hopelessness.
Because these are people who have grown crops on their land for many generations. So it's not that they don't have the capability. But the quality of the soil has reduced so much because we've removed all of our tree cover and we have no animals on the land. So there is no rejuvenation of the soil in any sense. We're not putting anything back. We're just taking and taking. So in Tamil Nadu, about 40% of the land has been considered fallow, which means it's going to be a desert. We've never had a desert in Tamil Nadu. It's the most fertile land in South India. Farmers there grow 3-4 crops in a year, and now they're struggling to grow one crop. So that's part of it. But also the Cauvery River itself has depleted. And the way to ensure that water seeps into the land and is slowly released into the river is by planting trees. Most of the land along the Cauvery belt is agricultural land. And so the only way to make this a viable option is to ensure that the farmer has economic success when he plants the trees. The amount of money he can make from planting trees and it's up to him whether he wants to grow fruits or whether he wants to grow timber. So we're also working with the governments to change the laws so that it's a little bit more beneficial to them. we have about almost 70,000 farmers who have converted to agroforestry in the Coimbatore area. And the amount of money that they make on a yearly basis is anywhere from 300 to 800% more than they were making before. So it's an economic plan with environmental benefits. And so some people ask, oh, who'll take care of the trees? The farmer will take care of it because it is his source of livelihood. And he knows what to do with the land. If you put me or somebody else in a piece of land and say, grow your own food, we'll be so clueless about it. But he has a different level of knowledge.
Right. And they've done it for generations.
And they've done it for generations.
Absolutely. I liked what Sadhguru said. It's the marriage of economy with ecology,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
I really like that. And the goal is to, I was reading, is to have 2.4 billion trees in 12 years.
So
right?
the aim is to plant 2.42 crore trees, which I think is 2.42 billion trees.
Right.
The aim of that is to ensure that all the trees that we plant, first the farmer of course will take care of it because it is his livelihood, but also each tree sequesters a few
for the
few
saplings,
thousand, yes. No, but the tree itself sequesters a few thousand liters of water in each tree. So it's to ensure that when the monsoon comes, the water is absorbed by the trees and it's slowly released throughout the year. Because in India, the only source of water we have is the monsoon. We don't have glacial water like they do in the Western countries. So it's to ensure that when the monsoon comes, one, it doesn't flood like we now have so many flood issues. It floods and it gets pushed away. And then within a few months, we have droughts because none of the water is retained in the land. So planting those trees and making sure that they're taken care of will ensure that.
And I think on an interesting note, I think when some very famous people join the cause, it inevitably brings interest. And on the Hollywood, Bollywood level, I saw Leonardo DiCaprio has, of course, been, you know.
Of course, thank him for his support.
And then I was watching some videos with Kangana Ranaut and Tamanna and quite a few Bollywood personalities as well.
A lot of the actors and actresses, because they have a different kind of pull with the audience.
Absolutely.
You could be the most incredible business person and you won't have the same following that the actors and actresses do.
True.
But they have taken it up in an
Mhm.
incredible way, and they're definitely using their popularity for the cause like this. And we have to thank them because they're bringing awareness to it in more ways than you or me can do.
Yeah, and I think when the intentions are pure, then the universe always steps in. I've always seen that. Now, on a very different note, let's talk a little bit about yourself. As you said, you're married to a musician. So your husband is a Sandeep Narayan, and he's a classical musician.
Sandeep is a Carnatic vocalist. He's originally from the US. He's
That
from
is
LA.
so nice. How did you guys meet?
Sandeep was born and brought up in LA, but he was born into a family that was very interested with music. So his mother is a music teacher even today in LA.
Wow.
She runs a large school there. And his brothers also took up music at a very young age. And his father has always been a lover of music. So by the time Sandeep, who's the youngest, came into the family, music was everywhere. He had no choice but to imbibe it. And he, I think as a child, had some talent for it. So his mother took it up with him. They moved to India for a year so that he could just learn music. And
meet
so
you.
he didn't. No, this was when he was 12. So he finished college and everything, and he moved to India permanently to pursue Carnatic music
That's
as a
unusual.
full-time career.
Wow.
And I think he was one of the first, if not the very first, musician to move full-time from the US back to pursue it full-time. I didn't meet him at that time. I met him many years later. By then, he was already in Chennai for a few years, and he was doing relatively well in his career, and he's doing pretty well now.
So where did you meet him?
I met him in Chennai. Dance and music, we have a very small community. We all know each other. All the dancers know all the musicians. The musicians know all the dancers. So it's not like we accidentally met and something happened. We had common friends. We were friends for a while, and I think 2 years later we were married. So
So let me ask you now, in Bharatanatyam, from what little I know, Abhinay is also such a part of it.
Yes.
And with you being so beautiful, have you ever thought of Bollywood, Tollywood, or any of ambitions like that for yourself?
I think dance is already such a huge ocean to delve into. Maybe if I get a little bit better at that. I'm not averse to being in a movie in any way, but at the same time, that's not where my focus is. I have nothing against it. Maybe if the opportunity presents itself, it'll happen, but I'm not actively looking to be in a movie or be a star. I don't know. I also don't know that being a dancer and being an actor, I think, are very different. There are very different requirements of you.
We've had some very famous dancers in Hindi movies, Hema
Yes.
Malini, Vajanti
So
Mala,
at
all
that
of them,
time,
right?
when movies were being made, even in South
Right.
Indian in movies like Vajanti Mala and all of them, at that time when dancing was introduced to movies, it was the classical dancers that were chosen for these roles. If you look at it now, Bollywood dancing is very different from classical dance. But even then, if you look at Mumbai, a lot of the dancing has Lavani roots.
Right.
So if you think back to Apsara Ali and all of that, they had a lot of classical and traditional folk and classical, I'm sorry.
You know, the classical music and dance is always, there'll always be our roots there.
Yes.
So I have to say, when I was reading about you, I found some very interesting stories about your love for saris, and I hope our green screen show still manages to show this beautiful green sari that you're wearing. So there is a very nice story about your love for saris, right? And Boston people love saris a lot. So I thought we'll share that story as well. You got some of your mom's saris, right?
I did. So my mother passed away when I was quite young, but my father kept some of the saris that she really enjoyed to wear. Kept some of those saris. So when I was about 16 and I joined Kalakshetra, part of the uniform is to wear saris. So we wear dance saris, which are shorter practice saris when we're dancing. But the days that we're not dancing, we have to wear saris. So when I joined Kalakshetra, suddenly this whole selection of beautiful saris was given to me. And I love it. I think it's so comfortable. I don't know why people my age or younger think it's difficult. I think it's just a question of getting used to it, because we're so used to putting on pants and a t-shirt, and I'm very comfortable in pants and a t-shirt. You should ask. I mean, anybody who knows me will know. But I love the feel of the fabric. I love the texture, the 100,000 different ways in which they weave saris, the different designs, the different textures, the different materials. And now people are doing really interesting things with linens, with ahimsa silk. So there's such a variety to it, which I think you don't have so much with Western clothes.
And nothing more Indian than a sari.
So for the sheer variety, I think when I was young, that's how I fell in love with it. And now it's just a question of comfort, really.
You know, as I'm watching you and listening to you and doing this interview, you remind me so much of your father. You have his eyes. And I have to tell you, I've interviewed so many people in all these years of doing this show. And I met him at a time when I just lost my parents, and he was so kind. He just sat the way you're sitting and talked to me for 2 hours, and I've never forgotten his kindness. And I'm not surprised that you are taking such a big cause and helping so many people. So wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you so much for having me.